Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. Despite Mark Zuckerberg's pleas, our calls to delete Facebook becoming deafening.
So that's why I believe that the future is private.
The Holocaust taught to people who get all their information from Instagram. And a good save in animals doing stuff. And at the top of our newsfeed, Facebook. Now, they held their big set-piece developer conference yesterday. It's called F8, and it's a chance for Mark Zuckerberg to reassure the legions of people who use his products that their data is safe with him, which is not that easy these days after years of terrible stories, which include such gems as Facebook's role in inciting genocide in Myanmar and its live streaming of a massacre in New Zealand. Not to mention the way the platform has been deployed by political actors globally to manipulate and influence the way people vote. It's unsurprising, therefore, that there's a growing delete Facebook movement. But Mark says he's listening and he knows what to do. So, do you trust him? For many of those who use his toys, it's complicated.
Facebook's founder and CEO could not have been any clearer.
As the world gets bigger and more connected, we need that sense of intimacy more than ever. So that's why I believe that the future is private. This is the next chapter for our services.
Privacy. It will define the user experience on Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. At least according to Mark Zuckerberg, it will.
Now look, I get that a lot of people aren't sure that we're serious about this. I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now, to put it lightly. But I'm committed to doing this well and to starting a new chapter for our products.
It's just over a year since the Cambridge Analytica scandal broke. The company, without permission, harvested tens of millions of Facebook profiles and used the data to target users with political campaigning. It's the tech giant's biggest ever data breach. As a result, Zuckerberg was dragged in front of the US Congress, he met British MPs, and senior Facebook officials spoke to the EU, all promising a privacy-focused future. But the breaches have continued. The Attorney General of New York launched an investigation because, in her words, Facebook has repeatedly demonstrated a lack of respect for consumer information. And last week, regulators in Canada announced they would be taking Facebook to court to force it to change how it protects its users' privacy.
We're very focused on making sure that our recommendations and discovery surfaces aren't highlighting groups where people are repeatedly sharing misinformation or harmful content, and we're working hard to completely remove groups if they exist primarily to violate our policies or do things that are dangerous.
But can media platforms for sharing experiences and designed to be social ever really be private?
Well, as part of what increasingly feels like an old-style media rebrand, Mark Zuckerberg has also announced some new features.
Still early.
Well, earlier we spoke to Paul Bernal, an expert on internet privacy and on Facebook. I asked him if he thought that people trusted Mark Zuckerberg.
I don't think anyone really trusts them with our data. I don't think anyone really trusts that this is being done in good faith, because we've been on these paths before many times. And he has to do a great deal more than this. I mean, when I look at what they're doing right now, it's basically mostly a new look. And there's the restructuring around groups and trying to make it feel more private, but there's almost nothing about actually gathering less data on people. There's nothing about profiling people less. There's nothing about what's being dealt with all the data that they've already got. There's nothing that's actually going to have any real effect on what they do. In some ways, this is another bit of presentation, and in other ways, he's trying to kind of head off any more serious regulation. And he has a good chance, because a lot of the regulation is focusing on content, whereas the real value of what he has is our profiling data, our metadata, and the knowledge that can be gathered from it about what we're like. And that's what's used to target, and that's what is used effectively to do the damage that we get through Facebook mostly. One of the problems, however, is that where are we going to move on to? We're going to move on to using WhatsApp more, using Instagram more, while Instagram and WhatsApp are still owned by Facebook, so they still have the data, they still have the control. And I think what he's really trying to do is to stop any more serious regulation, because he knows that the two things that could happen next are some kind of breakup of Facebook, some kind of forcing by competition authorities, and the Germans are already looking at this in some way, to separate out Facebook from WhatsApp and Instagram, and to prevent them from doing any further acquisitions. If he can be seen to be a good guy, they're less likely to force that, and he'll still have his control. If we don't believe him, then the authorities will keep banging away, trying to actually break up this. I mean, it's an empire in many ways that he has, that has control over so much of the activity that we do online. It'll be interesting to see what happens next in that way. I don't think the authorities will be convinced any more than the users will. There are two reasons to separate them out. One is to stop the kind of monopolistic control over people's activities, and the other is to stop the data being shared, so that we get the benefit they get from having all these different things, that they can profile us that much more and they can target that much more accurately. If we prevent the data being shared at the same time as preventing the control being shared, then we potentially get the best of both worlds, and he potentially gets he loses the real strength of the systems that he has, which would be good for the consumer, and in the end it would be good for our kind of democratic systems too.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Yes, Happy Workers' Day. May the 1st is trending, with protests, demonstrations and celebrations being held all over the world. But one guy who isn't celebrating is the Attorney General of the United States, William Barr. His name's been trending again after a Washington Post splash that detailed how the special counsel looking into Russia's interference in the 2016 US election was not happy with Barr's summary of his findings. The Mueller report hasn't found enough evidence that Donald Trump worked with Russian operatives to get himself elected, or that the president committed a crime. But at the same time, it doesn't exonerate President Trump. And now, wonderful news for those of us who actually like funny comedy and not lazy stereotypes and cheap laughs. The cast of The Big Bang Theory have posted some goodbyes to fans on Instagram. Good riddance, I say. Sad times, say others. Well, next, the Holocaust is something people should all know about, but in the social media generation, historical knowledge is often lost among the cat videos and memes. So one teenager has decided to use the medium of her peers to tell a very complex story.
This is my page for...
Eva is celebrating her 13th birthday with her boyfriend. She could be any teenage girl. But Eva's story is different.
The Holocaust is a memory which is something that happened in the first half of the former century, right? So it's like, what do we do? How do we make it tangible? So the first thing was, okay, we'll go where the kids are, which is Instagram. We tell a story about a girl which you can relate to. But then we said we have to do something which is more and more disruptive. We said, we'll give her a smartphone. We'll give a girl who lives in 1944 a smartphone, and we'll tell her, instead of the pen and the paper, use the smartphone to tell the story. And that's basically how the idea started.
Must document.
In 70 short episodes, Eva takes her Instagram followers on her Holocaust journey. It's based on the diary of 13-year-old Eva Heyman, who was killed in Auschwitz.
One of the reasons why we wanted to go with Eva out of the 30 diaries that we went through is because she's a very modern girl in a lot of ways. So her parents are divorced. There's this boy that she likes who's not so interested in her, and she wants him to pay attention to her. She has her best friend. She wants to be a journalist when she gets older. So there are all these kinds of different sides to Eva that we really felt like a modern kid in 2019 could connect to.
The Israeli Prime Minister has endorsed the project on his Instagram account.
The great tragedy of our people is revealed through the story of one girl. Now I want to encourage you, each of you, to also tell the story of the people who have died in the Holocaust.
Not everyone is happy, saying it simplifies a very complex issue. But even before the fictional Instagram account was activated, it had more than 300,000 followers.
All right, let's spin around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. News organisations in New Zealand say they will reduce their coverage of the trial of the self-declared white supremacist charged with murdering 50 people at 2 mosques last month. Brenton Tarrant live-streamed the killings on Facebook. He's due back in court in June. News orgs down there say they fear the trial may be used as a platform to amplify white supremacy. Sri Lanka's lifted its ban on social media. The nation blocked access to social networks after the Easter Sunday bombings. The president says he hopes that people will use social media responsibly in light of the ongoing crackdown on terrorism there. For millions in Sri Lanka, Facebook is the internet. And this incredible picture of people chowing down on noodles in Hebei province in China has won the World Food Photography Award. It was taken by Jianhu Liao and titled Cauldron Noodles. The image was taken during the celebration of the Chinese goddess Nua. Well, the skateboard legend's Tony Hawk must be bored since retirement because he's resorted to arranging scavenger hunts on social media. Now, Hawk posted this picture along with a message, "Left my board kinda close to Houston Airport, finders keepers." And it was found by a woman called Melissa Riggs who posted this video onto Facebook. Oh, by the way, it's her birthday. Congratulations. And think, without social media, this kind of stuff just wouldn't be possible. Thank you, internet.
I'm sure everybody that was in this parking lot thought I was insane, but that's okay. This will be in my bed tonight. Thanks, Tony. This is pretty awesome. Thanks for making this birthday just absolutely amazing.
All right, and in Animals Doing Stuff, we got some footage of a rescue of a bird who's supposed to be wise, but not this owl. He got himself trapped in some cables above a river in South Carolina. An appeal went on social media for help, and some volunteers rushed to the rescue. Pro tip for any owls out there, watch out for cables when you're flying around. That'll do from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.